Gentlemen, behold! It's a freaking NERF Minigun! And not just any freaking NERF minigun, it's the NERF Moab 2.0, the mother of all blasters, the second. Yes, a few years ago, multiple? I had the privilege of showing you the NERF Moab, the creation of Gatling Tommy, a man who dedicated multiple years of his life to designing and building a fully functional, hyper-realistic NERF minigun that shot up to 50 rounds per second. That's 3,000 rounds per minute. And he was building those miniguns and selling them himself for the casual price of a used car, a good used car. He then dedicated a few more years of his life refining his creation to the point where you can now pick up a hardware kit and build one yourself. There's a Kickstarter for it where you can save a considerable amount of money and help fund this thing even more with stretch goals. As of this video, there's a couple of days left, so make sure you pick one up or else you're gonna be paying a lot more in the future if you do want it. And of course, we'll go over every feature of this blaster and fire a ton of darts through it. But first, we gotta cover the build, the most important part of the minigun experience. The first thing you're gonna need is a 3D printer because one 3D printer, a pretty good one might I add, like this Bamboo A1, which will handle this entire build by itself. It's literally gonna take you about a month of solid print time to get one of these things going. The minigun itself is a lot, but the, spoiler, the backpack takes longer to print. You know, because it holds 500 rounds in all.
500 Moab shells.
You'll also need about 14 rolls of filament. A little of that needs to be PETG, but almost everything else can be printed with standard PLA. For the build of this one here, which currently I have the name of Dreamsicle in my mind, but if you have a better one, let me know down in the comments. I used some of the cheapest stuff I could find on Amazon and it worked perfectly fine. Gatling Tommy took every single complaint and suggestion I had for the original NERF Moab and featured them in the NERF Moab 2.0. But of course, once you've done all that 3D printing, it's not gonna be any use to you unless you have a hardware kit. This hardware kit is exquisite. It comes completely pre-soldered, pre-cabled, everything measured, ready for you to tackle the build of the Moab. It also comes with every tool and bit you need. You even print out your own screwdriver and wrenches if you want to. And spoiler too, most of those tools are required. Just print them out even if you think you don't need them. But it comes with the glue, the grease, the bits, and every single thing you need to construct the monstrosity you see before you. And then saddle up because the build is gonna take you a couple of hours. Spoiler 3, the backpack, building the chain and all that stuff takes considerably longer than actually building the minigun itself. But building the Moab is half of the experience here. Think of it more like a model kit. You don't need to solder anything. In fact, the only thing you need a soldering iron for is if you want to have heat set inserts that come with the kit installed in your blaster, you can use a soldering iron for that. But everything else is plug and play, making the NERF Moab build an excellent STEM experience. The full print and build guide covers absolutely everything you would need to get one of these things set up. And you can see some of the method behind his madness, like the fact that the plunger tubes in this blaster are entirely 3D printed. It's just a marvel of engineering getting this thing ready to go. And a lot of the things I had problems with on the original Moab are fixed with the Moab 2.0. It is now way easier to access the delinker if you have something go wrong. And yes, this thing does use shells and links with darts inside of them. These are essentially the barrels for your blaster. And it will actually feed this chain through, push out the individual shells, and then discard both the spent casings and the links themselves onto the floor. And Gatling Tommy has made it very clear he has absolutely no plans to ever have this blaster not do that. He did break the build up into 3 milestones, so milestone 1 is actually a hand-cranked option that feeds through a stripper clip. Milestone 2 adds in the delinking mechanism, and then milestone 3 is the full auto motor powered everything you dream of. Gatling Tommy also extended the barrels, which everybody wanted because the original just looked like the weed whacker. But the extended barrels are actually held on with magnets, so you can easily remove them, and if you happen to bump them into something, you don't have to worry about destroying the entire blaster. So here's the front section. You can just take that right off because the actual barrels, again, are the shells, not these things. These are purely cosmetic. And then you wind up with this size, which I think is the best size of the Moab, but you can let me know I'm wrong down in the comment section. And then this one will even come off and expose the original weed whacker length of barrel the Moab is known for. Keep in mind, when using these extended barrels, you actually limit your max fire fire rate. It's not that the thing won't work with these longer barrels, it's just that the darts won't really come out the barrels. And don't worry, we'll talk about all those settings. The Moab 2.0 is actually powered by a 3S LiPo battery as opposed to the original 5S LiPo battery. And I noticed with this version is that the spin up is actually a little bit slower until it goes full bore, while the original was just full bore all the freaking time. I think we're good. Honestly, the battery compatibility and lower price for 3S LiPos versus 5S on top of the slow startup time is really cool to me. So that covers the entire barrel situation right there. Moving back, we have this foregrip right here. It's knurled for your pleasure and it feels pretty good in the hands. We've got a sling loop locator right here so you can have this thing slung off your shoulder because it is a fairly hefty affair. We've got the chute right here, which is where our shells are discarded. Moving to the bottom of the blaster, we actually have another chute for where the links will pop out, and then this is actually your feeding port for the chain. We also have another thing I suggested, which was a tripod setup, so you can actually make this into an emplacement, which is honestly probably the only real way you're gonna wanna use this thing in any actual Nerf War scenario. You've got shells and links going everywhere. They take forever to print. They cost a lot of filament to print. You're not gonna wanna lose them. And while there will be options for catch bag systems, it's gonna take a lot of room. So a tripod mount just makes sense. And on the other side of the Mob, we do have this little thumb screw right here, which we can loosen and actually open up to reveal the delinking mechanism. Now before with the Moab 1, there was like 14 screws that went into this thing on top of the thumb screw. This is a much better design. And you can see all this reinforcement honeycomb here, which I really like because my original one blew out this part multiple times no matter how I printed it. So while the entire system is driven by a motor, there are 6 plunger tubes with 6 springs inside of here. It is technically an AEB system, and you can run the Moab by hand to see how it actually functions. Stage 1 of the system is where the belt is fed into the delinker that pushes the shells out of the links, discards the links, and moves those shells with foam darts into the firing mechanism, which is what this big, huge thing is. This is the actual plunger tube system and everything for the Moab. Right next to your foregrip, you actually have a 3-position switch. You have safe and then 1 and 2. That is your firing modes. You can set those independently, so you can customize the firing mode and how fast the Moab fires and set those to these 2 positions so you can switch them on the fly, which is where this thing comes in. This is the brains of the Moab. There's an actual circuit board and everything in here is custom made for this blaster. There's a big, nice, shiny power button right here. And again, the entire system is powered by a 3S LiPo battery. This whole menu system is controlled via this 5-directional knob right here. You've got up, down, left, right, and a click in to select. That was the ESC for the brushless motor, because this thing is brushless. And we have an ammo counting readout right here, which means we're ready to go. We can flip this into the 1st position or the 2nd position and fire your Moab. But we can also click in the thumbstick right here and we get a small menu. You can set a 6-dart burst, a 12-dart burst, or full auto. And the darts per minute to 500, 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000. You can even customize the ammo counting number. Moving farther back, we've got your main grip right here. This has your firing trigger on it, so if you press that, you get the juice. And honestly, even at the slower firing mode, this thing is a little loud. Not a huge deal, because most of the time you're gonna have it, off the hip, but still, it's not quiet. There's another sling loop right here, and I'm not sure if this is where this went, but it fit there, so I put another sling loop right there. But of course, this is only half of your Moab experience, because this is the backpack to feed your NERF Moab. And it holds approximately 500 rounds. This is the feeding chute piece right here, and inside of that is the actual link with the chain and everything on it. It's held in by this little thing right here. If I pull that out, the chain will just spill out of the blaster. It does come with backpack straps, so you can put the thing on. And yeah, it weighs a considerable amount. It is primarily a full-length dart blaster setup. You can put 2 half darts in each shell, and it does technically work, but you're running the risk of something jamming up if you do that. We can take our chain here. We do want the single loop facing outwards, and we can just kind of feed that into the Moab. And then there are little pegs that you fit to connect the chute to the blaster, so we can then open up our delinking mechanism and make sure we actually feed our chain through. Then we take our belt and we fit the loop in one of the recesses, and then we manually turn the system until one of the delinking pushers fits through that. We can give it a click, and now our system is actually ready to go. And this is what you can expect with the Moab. It feels unlike anything else to have this thing in the hand ready to go. And this is a little bit more than awkward, but here's the Moab in its glory on a short burst on 1,000 rounds per minute. That was just one little squeeze of the trigger on like the second slowest firing mode. I'm actually going to remove these barrels just so we don't have any problems with the higher firing rates, but here's 2,000. Again, a short burst, you can see. Let's do that one more time. That was 12 darts. Ridiculous. And yet, we can go even further beyond at 3,000 rounds per minute. That is so much. I'm gonna do a little bit of full auto, but you can do the math. 500 round backpack, 3,000 rounds per minute. It only lasts about 10 seconds. And by yourself, it takes about 70 minutes to fill this thing. It feels magical. And now I get to carefully step over all this stuff so I don't break it, refill the chain, and get it ready for some actual testing. That wasn't even half the backpack. And that was only a couple of seconds of firing the thing. This was exactly 150 rounds, surprising me as well. And it took me just over, let's say, 16 minutes because I had to grab another thing of darts. So do the math. Also keep in mind that I'm well trained on this because I have the original Moab. So I've done a lot of this. Actually, no, I actually did properly chronograph the Moab 2.0, and yes, I did kill Freddy, and I'll have to give him some surgery, but the Moab does chronograph at about 75 to 85 feet per second velocities. That's roughly stock Nerf velocities. It's not super special in that regard, but it more than makes up for it in capacity and rate of fire. This blaster is the definition of min-maxing when it comes to its stats. And you can guess when it comes to the accuracy that the Moab isn't meant to be a precision instrument. While using it on a tripod and an emplacement setup does help quite a bit, it's firing full-length darts from 6 individual barrels. Your accuracy is going to be through volume, not precision, which is to say anything inside of your effective range is tagged out. There's nothing in the entirety of foam flinging that can remotely compete with what the Moab can do. And that's what the Moab is. It is an experience when it comes to the build, when it comes to the actual use. It is the centerpiece of your Nerf collection. There will never be another blaster, I'm sure of, unless it's like the double Moab, or Murph help us, the Heavy Arms Custom Moab. Actually, I could go worse, the Cosmos Moab. Man, there are a lot of famous miniguns out there. Compared to the original Moab, the Moab 2.0 is so much smoother. In the over 1,000 rounds I've put through this thing, I have had 0 malfunctions. In fact, it worked the first time every time, which for something this complex and my building skill, that's a triumph for Gatling Tommy and his ability to make something that everybody could build. And I truly mean that. If I can do it, you can probably do it. But there are some things to consider, such as the price. The hardware kit is not cheap. It's more expensive than multiple other pro-level blasters combined, but it also makes a freaking Nerf minigun, and if you don't pick it up during the Kickstarter, that price is only gonna go up. And then, of course, there's the cost of the filament. and then your time printing and building it, also the cost of a printer if you do not have one. Which is to say, I think anybody can build a Moab, and once you've built one, you'll understand why Gatling Tommy was asking literally thousands of dollars for a pre-built one. But there's one more consideration to make, and that's, once you've built it, what are you gonna use it for? This is, in my humble opinion, not really a good blaster to try to field. Reiterating myself one more time, Gatling Tommy is adamant about not making the Moab not be a delinking machine. He wants it to be the minigun. That also goes for having some kind of infinite belt system. He doesn't want to do that. He wanted this and he built that, and that is what you're going to get. Anything less is just doing the platform a disservice. These are tripping hazards. Not only do they cost a lot of money and time to build and remove support and all that kind of stuff, but if somebody were to step on one of these, they could easily slip and fall. Which means the Moab is gonna require some kind of bag setup, which is easier said than done, and it's going to be huge. And further on, if you actually want to use this thing at its maximum setup, well, you get about 10 seconds of firing out of it, with probably about 90 minutes of cleanup and reassembly. If you aren't interested in the build process of the Moab 2.0 at all, this is not really gonna be the blaster for you, I'm afraid. And that's my recommendation. If you have a printer sitting around you're not using and you have the urge to build something extraordinary, definitely do not miss your chance to pick up a Moab hardware kit on the discount. It is undoubtedly the coolest 3D printed thing you will ever build.